Latino and Hispanic. What is the difference between the terms Latino and Hispanic? A boy or man whose family comes from Latin America is called Latino. A girl or woman whose family comes from Latin America is Latina. Hispanic refers to someone whose family comes from a Spanish-speaking place, like Spain, Mexico, or Puerto Rico. A person like Sonia Sotomayor, whose family comes from Puerto Rico, could be called Hispanic and Latina. So Latin America would include any of these parts of the world here, like Mexico, Central America, all of South America, and even these countries here, like in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, including Puerto Rico, which is that little tiny island right there. So that's where Sonia Sotomayor's family was from. Therefore, she'd be called Latina and Hispanic. So moving on now to Chapter 1, Born in the Bronx. 5 boroughs of New York City. Bronx is right here. Manhattan there, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. Sonia Maria Sotomayor was born on June 25, 1954. Her parents, Juan and Selena, brought her home. They lived in a poor area of the Bronx, which is a part of New York City. Like many of their neighbors, Juan and Selena had come to the United States from Puerto Rico. They had each left Puerto Rico in 1944, hoping for a better life. In the Bronx, they met and married. They moved into the building where Juan's mother lived. The Sotomayores worked hard to make a life in their new country. Selena worked at a hospital while she studied to become a nurse. Juan worked in a factory. Selena learned some English, but the family spoke only Spanish at home. When Sonia was 3 years old, their brother Juan was born. The family called him Junior. With the family growing, her parents decided to move to a bigger, nicer apartment in the Bronx. Sonia liked her new home, but missed living near her grandmother Mercedes. Years later, Sonia wrote a book about her life. She called it My Beloved World, and it was published in 2013. In the book, she wrote about her grandmother, how full of life she was. She gave parties for the family almost every Saturday night. Everyone danced, played dominoes, and sang. Mercedes wrote poetry about Puerto Rico and cooked large meals. The apartment would fill with the smell of Puerto Rican food, like chicken cooked with onions and garlic. Even as a child, Sonia liked pig's feet and pig's ears. When Sonia was very young, Mercedes began taking her to Puerto Rico for vacations. Sonia loved those trips. She never forgot the clear blue water of the ocean and the white sandy beaches of Puerto Rico. So a bit about Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is an island in the Atlantic Ocean. It is about 1,000 miles from Florida. The name Puerto Rico means rich port in Spanish. The island was owned by Spain for 405 years, so that's why Spanish is the main language. But ever since 1898, Puerto Rico has been part of the United States. Although Puerto Rico is not a state, it is a territory, not a state. Everyone born in Puerto Rico is an American citizen. But Puerto Ricans do not have all the rights of U.S. citizens. They can't vote for Congress members or for presidents. Some Puerto Ricans wish their country could become the 51st state. Others want Puerto Rico to be an independent nation, not part of the United States. Sonia Sotomayor has thought a lot about this question over the years, but it is tricky to decide. Sonia's father was a sweet man. He took Sonia on picnics, to the beach, and to the Yankees games. But he drank too much. Her parents fought a lot because of this. When Sonia's father lost his job, Selena worked nights and weekends to support the family. She also worked to pay for Sonia and Junior to go to a Catholic school. Selena thought education was the most important thing in the world. But Sonia didn't like her school. It was called Blessed Sacrament. The nuns were very strict. They slapped kids who didn't behave. Sonia had other troubles as well. When she was almost 8 years old, she fainted in church. And this is not the first sign of a problem. Sonia often had no energy. She was thirsty all the time, and she was losing weight. Selena took Sonia to the doctor right away. The doctor sent Sonia to Prospect Hospital in the Bronx for some tests. Selena worked at Prospect Hospital as a nurse, so Sonia wasn't afraid at first. But when the tests were done, the doctor had bad news. Sonia had type 1 diabetes. Sonia had never seen her mother cry until that moment. A bit about diabetes then and now. People with diabetes have too much sugar in their blood. Their bodies can't get rid of the sugar. There is medicine that helps the sugar, keeps the sugar at a safe level. It is called insulin. Insulin is given through injections, as in through shots. The problem is that sugar levels can change very quickly in a person's blood. so people with diabetes have to test their blood all day long. They have to carry insulin with them all the time to give themselves shots. In the early 1960s, when Sonia was young, it was much harder to control diabetes. Many diabetics did not live as long as people without the disease. Today, however, treatment has improved. People like Sonia live much longer and lead active lives. Sonia was scared. She had to stay in the hospital for a week. When she got home from the hospital, Sonia felt better. But there was another problem. As Sonia explained in her book, her parents were nervous about giving her insulin shots. Selina was a nurse, but she hated the idea of hurting Sonia. Her parents started fighting about it. Sonia was always a girl who wanted to solve problems herself, so she climbed up on a chair near the stove to boil water for sterilizing the needle. Sterilizing meaning to get rid of the germs on the needle. At first, her mother was worried. Should she really let a young girl use the stove and handle a needle? Nearly all parents would say absolutely not. But Selina decided to trust her child. From that day on, Sonia gave herself shots of insulin every day. Now that her disease was under control, she had more energy. But the very next year, her world changed again. Her father died suddenly of a heart attack. He was only 42 years old. Sonia and Junior were very sad, but their mother seemed overcome by grief. Years later, Sonia wrote that her mother wouldn't come out of her room at night. How was a 9-year-old girl supposed to have a happy childhood with so much misery around her?